LeBlanc, and Lucian. That's 3 L champions. Interesting. What does it mean? I don't have to explain anymore because it'll be an actually screen. To keep you updated, Zoe is the first pick on the side of SK Gaming, and it is going to be misrepresented at this moment. It is, of course, SK Gaming on the blue side and Schalke No Fear on the red side. So that is Odoamne, first pick, locking in this J4.
And importantly for Abadage, it's 2 mid lane champions banned away from him, 2 relatively safe options, so he actually makes the call, give me the Zoe. I need a champion that I feel comfortable on and that I can try to have a big impact in this game on.
And on the other side, you get so much flex power with Werlib and Selfmade to have that Jarvan. I hope that Selfmade just grabs hold of the Jarvan and then just terrorizes through the jungle, and then you get kill pressure there by having Ignar pick up his Thresh. This is a champion that earlier on in the split was perma-banned away from him.
And just earlier today, it was the Thresh Jinx bottom lane for Crown Shot. Of course, it's not going to be that way this time around because they have their Tristana here for a Crown Shot paired up with the All-Star. It is so much scaling in towards the late game for SK.
And worry not, ladies and gentlemen, some small-scale technical difficulties, but we will continue to guide you through the draft. Ender, you've already mentioned it. That is Zoe, Alistar, Tristana, locked in now on the side of SK. On the opposite side, we see the Jarvan. We see Ignar's Thresh, now paired with Upset's Kaisa, one of Upset's signature picks.
It's the second most played champion here for Upset in the LEC, and it's so pivotal that he's on this champion in this game. If Schalke want to win, it is going to be because of Upset's performance on this pick, and I think that we're going to be seeing Schalke trying to play around this bottom side of the map and put Upset in a position where he can try to carry in the team fights.
And picks and bans are now correct and up to date on your screen, ladies and gentlemen. Nocturne and Rek'Sai. Schalke taking away some of these jungle options for a player like Selfmade. No surprises there. While the Syndra, these options to shut down Pyrion in the mid lane, taken away from SK.
But you still have champions like Olaf, like Sejuani, the big pick probably for Selfmade that's certainly sticking out there. So there's still plenty of front line available for SK Gaming to put together a very traditional front-to-back team fighting composition for that Tristana.
And because SK went for the very early rotation of the Zoe, it basically secures you that you're going to have a very strong mid-jungle 2 versus 2. Now this Akali Hover, I actually really like up against the Zoe matchup. I think you can get pushed into the early game, but you have so much kill threat. That being said, I don't know if Abadage is the player to pilot that champion.
And here's the deal. When push comes to shove, when your back is against the wall, comfort picks are important. We've got a Thresh for Ignar. We've got the Kaisa for Upset, and now we have the Kennen in the top lane for Odoamne. He has been a monster on this pick over the course of the split, but now the Karma coming in.
Karma top?
Alistar's already locked in, and that's a Karma top.
No, this is going to be a Karma top lane. And so what they're going to be trying to do here for SK is they're putting the Karma up against the Kennen lane. And what you can do is you have range versus range matchup. It means it's less easy for Odoamne to proc the Kleptomancy in the top, and you can try to neutralize the laning phase and set up to play around Crown Shot. This man is going to have a spotlight in him in this game.
Yeah, but I feel like this is SK revealing some of their cards before playoffs even begin. They haven't qualified, but they're having to reach pretty deep into their bags of trick and pull that one out.
Putting it all on the table, and now with the Akali locked in for Abadage, I like this. Now Abadage, he has struggled, no doubt. He has been moments away from finding big outplays, and he has thrown it away on some bad calls. But putting that faith in him in the final game, when it matters, is going to be huge.
And we'll be watching for the level 6 mark around this middle lane. Akali gets so much kill threat when she gets access to her ultimate, and paired up alongside a pick like this Jarvan as well. I think Schalke need to fight around this mid lane early and try to get Abadage into a position that he can perform in this game.
Early skirmish power from Schalke is certainly there, especially around the mid lane if they give resources to the Akali, but I still love the team fight power for both these compositions. I love how Karma works with Dream's Alistar, can really help get him into position to set up for any sort of big engage, but both these compositions have really easy team fight, but there's also slight twists to them that make them difficult to execute. The fact that Abadage needs to execute perfectly on this Akali, be able to pilot a champion that has such volatility around it, and then also making a Zoe Lee Sin Karma work for SK Gaming.
You definitely think that SK, it's going to be a little bit difficult to play in these fights, but they have a lot of tools to kite back. They have so many ways to just kick you out of a fight, both literally with the Lee Sin and with the Tristana and these other tools as well. It's all about buying space for Crown Shot to carry in the late game when you have so many members of Schalke trying to dive towards him.
And I think a perfect fitting end to the split. Crown Shot has been a guy who has shown up, who's carried this team a few times, and who has thrown it away on some bad positioning. I love that in the final game, It's do or die. It's that Tristana coming through, but so much is going to come down to the early game. Ladies and gentlemen, this is SK versus Schalke, the battle for the final slot in playoffs, the battle of who will play Splice in our first round.
Feels like the Berlin crowd sounding like they're behind SK Gaming right there.
Right, I heard some Let's Go Schalke. Oh, SK, I mean,
I think it's divided, guys.
on two German orgs going toe-to-toe for the final slot in Berlin. It feels like a poetic finish to the season.
It absolutely does, and you look at the drafts on both of these sides, and you think super explosive mid-game for both of these two teams. I think that we're going to see some very, very volatile gameplay from both of these sides, and my eyes, as always in an SK game, look towards Selfmade.
I was just going to say, we have to focus in, put a magnifying glass on our Kia player of the game, MVP so far in terms of the leaderboard, and Selfmade and what he's going to do with this Lee Sin. He has an abundance of tools to work with. Every single one of his lanes can perform or can provide a form of CC for him. And what creative pathing is it going to be this time around?
And there's a couple different options here, I feel like, for Selfmade, because, of course, if you look at this draft, the biggest switch-up is going to be this Karma in the top side. And you think Karma, yes, she gets the push priority against the Kennen, but there's two ways to think about this matchup. One is, if you are Selfmade, I need to come up top side, provide cover for Warlib to try to build an advantage in the 1v1 or even look for a gank. The other option is, we picked this Karma, it's a utility pick, let her build an advantage by herself and try to focus more around Crown Shot and Period.
I feel like I err more on the fact that Selfmade is a very resource-heavy jungler. It feels like he loves to do Krug camp, he loves to give himself ahead. Yes, he does gank a lot, but it's not ganking weak lanes. It's always ganking the lane that sets up to get him the kill. He loves to snowball himself before he snowballs the rest of his map. So I have a feeling that it's never going to be to cover someone on his map. It's always going to be to empower himself of where he chooses his moments.
And yet, if we think about Selfmade and what the lanes he has to work with in this game, it's actually not that easy, I don't think, to set up for any ganks. A lot of the CC is delayed, or even in this bottom lane, the Thresh does a lot of things to counteract the tools of an All-Star wanting to look for an engagement. But now watch this from
Whoa.
Schalke. Ignar and
It's
Memento
spotted.
working together, but they're on a ward.
Walking over, Period knows this one is coming. Still stepping forward just a little bit to stay in XP range. Really well played. That ward, brilliant. Stops any aggressive play from going down.
I mean, it's an excellent read against Schalke. This was classic Schalke. They used to do this weeks 1, 2, 3. It was always Ignar and Memento looking for these very early plays on the mid lane. And what this information does is it gives Selfmade free access into the jungle.
Abadage also placing that ward, Keely, right there on towards the Raptor camp, so Schalke will know where Selfmade is at the moment. They're going to be able to track him, and no, they're not going to be able to find a gank around this middle lane, but I already love the thought process from Schalke returning to that Memento plus Ignar duo that they found so much success with earlier on.
But here comes Selfmade onto Krug camp. Watch this guy. He loves Krugs. He Krugs all the time. It's the most valuable camp for the experience as well as the gold, and if he can deny both sets of Krugs, that means his ability to get to level 6 is just that much faster.
Odoamne, though, just going to take some free money here. Has, of course, the Kleptomancy proc and gets a free health pot on the back of that one. So Selfmade still grabs the majority of the experience, and Ping's now coming down on the enemy Krugs. I don't know if Memento can move into that one, though, and Selfmade may just get priority here.
He's basically telling him that, do not let Memento take my Krug camp. You better ward that for me. I'm running directly there.
Exactly, because now if Selfmade actually cashes on both Krugs, he's going to build up a pretty sizable EXP advantage. Krugs are worth more EXP than any other camp in the game. So Selfmade has a really nice path here where he takes the enemy Krugs, resets, buys double longsword to help with the clear, and can now clear from bot to top and build up a CS lead.
Thank you, Ender. Really
You're
on
just-
point.
You're welcome.
Just flashbacks. There was another caster here a few years back. Used to talk a lot about Krugs. Different reasons, of course. It was bot lane back in the day, but nostalgic. It reminds me so much, Ender. Of course, now as we check in a little bit more in the game, Memento, desperate to find and enforce these plays, lays down a bit of supporting vision for Abadage, can make sure that he's safe. And the level 6 point Ender is something we talked about in draft. The moment where Abadage gets a bit more burst, gets a bit more access here, and maybe could look to go for a more aggressive play.
And specifically, the important thing about the Akali versus Zoe matchup is, yes, at level 6 you have kill threat, but the longer and longer we get into the game, the more beneficial it is for this Akali. Abbedagge is going to outscale heavily in terms of side lane pressure, because we know Zoe actually really struggles to play the side lane in the mid game. So that's where Abbedagge can try to take some more control over this 1v1.
Ooh, and Selfmade kind of shadowing here. Have to see where he's going to end up against the Jarvan. Jarvan has to be careful moving into the top side, but Odoamne is there as well, so he's going to be able to make it out safely. TP now being used in the top lane. Memento is backing off. Lee Sin now spotted. That's going to stop the player from going down, and I'm going to say a very controlled early game from both sides.
Some very creative wards, specifically that one that's just underneath the mid lane that caught out Selfmade posturing for the lane gank.
And now the headbutt denied there as Ignore finds the flay. Very important in this matchup, as Dreams will desperately need that aftershock for the tanky stats if a play does happen. And denying that, any CC from landing will deny that Keystone from activating.
Good trades in the bottom lane, but you know, the more I look at how this game is playing out, the more I sort of question this Karma pick up on the top side of the map. And I think a lot of people watching will have similar questions because we haven't seen Werlib on the champion. In the past, we have seen it pop up in a few different regions with the Kleptomancy to sort of bully out melee top laners. And my question for Werlib is whether or not it's going to be a tank Karma build, which is very obnoxious to deal with in a side lane, but I actually feel like gets very useless the later we get into the game, whereas where it might be much more beneficial is if he goes for a more supportive style build to help out Crownshot.
I mean, he has a couple of different options. You can go tank, you can go supportive, or you can actually go for more of that burst damage Karma, who would sync really well with Zoe as a poke champion and just have a full poke composition with the disengage potential of Alistar and Lee Sin for Crownshot's Tristana.
Yeah, and to be fair, when I say supportive style Karma, I still mean you build some of the AP. We typically see, you know, a Luden's Echo, maybe even an Athene's if you want to go much more supportive in that route, but ultimately what you need is a lot of AP to give big old shields for Crownshot, and then an Ardent Sensor later on to really help out the DPS.
And that is the item that we often look at when we talk about supportive Karma, just the option to shield the entire team, to buff up a champion like Crownshot, to give him kind of that extra half an item worth of stats that you really get there. Will be interesting to see what the option is for Werlib at the moment, because he is just even in CS, and of course it's his Odoamne's Kennen. This is an incredible comfort pick for him, and the Kleptomancy means that going even, well, he's really just going to be building an individual gold lead, but it will have to balance out the difference in keystones for Aerie.
But the power from Odo's Kennen was never going to be in the lane phase. Yes, he has been known to take up the Jace, and he can dominate a lane phase, but when Odo is most impressive on this Kennen, it's how he always seems to find the perfect flank team fight opportunities. This guy is so good at making sure that he gets in the right place, right time as Kennen.
And that's where I get actually concerned here for Odoamne. Yes, he's 4-1 on the Kennen in this split alone, but you look at Lee Sin, Tristana ults, and Alistar to headbutt him out of a fight. Even if you find that perfect teleport flank, you're still looking at being bumped out very, very early on.
Oh, absolutely. Pressure is on. You just hope that if you're a Schalke fan, that you can find that Cataclysm Electrical Storm Kennen, just that Venn diagram of murder, spread it all over.
Yeah, and I think people think about this sort of Kennen pick a lot as a primary initiation tool, which is a little bit incorrect, because if Odoamne is actually coming in as
Jarvan's
the
going in
secondary
first.
engage, you lead with the Jarvan, even, you know, the Akali diving on in there. If Kennen comes in at the end after key cooldowns have been burned, there's no way you can actually escape from that terror in your backline.
Now, though, as we check in, before we get to that point in the game where these teamfights do start to come out, where we can see those potential flanks and setups from either side, you see a small CS advantage on the bottom side for Crownshot, using that range advantage to good effect. And Selfmade now quite comfortably at the level 6, matched on the side of Memento. This may be first aggressive play that we see. Flay now coming in. Dreams needs to be careful. Needs to make it out to safety. Crownshot does just immediately disengage. Ignore burning down, but it's not going to be enough. Now it's Dreams going to be sacrificed. No level 6 there for the Alistar, and that means first blood for Schalke.
Very nicely done there from Schalke, and Memento specifically looping around, playing in the fog of war, and by the time he showed up on the ward, it was just too late for Dreams in the bot lane.
There could even be a potential repeat game here.
Oh! Flay! Ignore not going to be able to connect the hook, but now he's in trouble. Memento debating. Does he go in? They're going to wait for the setup.
No flash, no heal.
Health. He can't take a single tower shot. Memento's going to start this one off. Upset desperate to get the kill back. Memento going to grab it, and that is the early game that Schalke wanted.
We were looking for Schalke to play around the bottom lane, to put Upset in a position to carry, and with early game pathing towards the bottom side of the map, Memento has done just that.
And huge credit to Ignar, the comfort champion. Again, this Thresh is normally banned away from him. He gets his hands on it. He manages to find the buffer animation on the Tristana and deny any sort of disengage.
And we'll have to see that one more time in replay, because I believe Dreams actually used his flash early on in that engagement, so he wasn't able to escape. Now this is of course after Schalke already got the kill, but look at the flash play. The hook isn't quite there. Can't predict the flash coming out from Crown Shot, but you realize without the escape tools, you're going down.
World though now in trouble. Memento returning to the top side. World, I don't think you're going to be able to escape from this one. Mantra, not enough. Schalke now starting to take over. The 3-0 Memento going to be terrifying to deal with.
If you turn the nameplates off right now, you think that Memento is self-made. This man is now 3-0 in the early game. He has been struggling for so long, but when it counts, he's showing up.
Yeah, and it's the confidence to go, it's no longer Cinderhulk Jarvan. I am going full Warriors.
Yeah.
I am going to drop on Crown Shot, and if I ever get a hold of him, I am going to chunk him out of these fights.
And what it is it's backline assassination here. Comboing the ultimate from Jarvan with the cannon as well. It is so much AoE damage, and they're going to try to snowball with that effect one more time.
And in what feels like an instant, the game starts to pick up pace. We now see the Rift Herald taken. SK on the bottom side, yes, they get a couple plates. Yes, they will grab this Cloud Drake, but at what cost becomes the question. Jarvan now with the Empowered Recall can go to any lane he wants and potentially force a tower with the sheer individual gold that has built up. It is 1.5k in the favor of Schalke.
And now where do you attack next on the map? With the Rift Herald, you can use it very early on to get maximum amount of plates. Do you decide to double down with Kennen, throw the Rift Herald up there to get Odo even snowballed further ahead? Do you put it bottom where you already have kill pressure? Or do you actually throw a Kali a bone and allow her to also start springboarding to this game so you can split and eat any section of the map you want?
I would love to see Memento path for that bottom lane one more time. Look at the summoner spells, right? Odwamne has his TP up. He can come in to support. There's no flash on either Crown Shot or Dreams, so there's a lot of kill pressure in that lane. They can look to get a couple of kills and then knock down this tower very early on.
Dreams with the Moby Boots and the Cloud Drake, speeding them up, running them down to the bottom side of the map. At this stage of the game, when they find themselves in this deficit, it feels like you just want a few more items under the belts of the Tristana. But top lane, I do start to get a little bit scared. Lost Chapter coming out, pointing us to the Luden's itemization for Warlib. But Odwamne already with the Proto Belt completed does just get scarier and scarier. May not want to commit his ult to this 1v1, but Kleptomancy also just continuing to extend this lead.
Yeah, Odwamne can just do fine here in the one going without burning the ultimate, and he's going to hold on to that spell in case there is a fight around the bottom lane. Now, what I'd really like to see from Ignar is to actually place a deep ward inside of the lane, something you can look to teleport on towards if you are Odwamne, because if Schalke can make a gank happen before the 14-minute mark, they're looking at a lot of gold they can cash in on with the turret plating and the Herald.
Selfmade trying to make a big play, kicks Odwamne back, now back in, but Abadagi is here as well. Selfmade doesn't take the kill back, forward, he's going to get one. That's the 1-for-1. Does give a kill over to Abadagi. Pyrian hoping to find something back here. Double buffs in the pocket of Kali. J4 is here, Pyrian needs to back up. Have to play this one smart. Memento's just going to walk him down. The exhaust goes in. Now comes the ultimate. Pyrian still running. Has the Proto Belt. Will find the disengage, but so much traded there.
Stuff getting spicy around the mid lane, Draco. Selfmade going for the 1v2 and pulling it off right there. Take a look at this one more time, because it's actually Odwamne who jumps on him. It's level 10 to level 8. But Selfmade is able to do so much damage here with the challenging smite. He follows the flash here to finish off for the 1-for-1 trade.
Just that small misplay from Odo not connecting with the initial Q, it would have been enough.
Cost him the early stun right there as well, and you can see Memento wanting to fight here on that Jarvan. He had the completed warrior enchantment already, and he does a lot of damage.
And when push comes to shove, Selfmade has put the burden on himself to carry this game. That is a serrated Dirk in the inventory of the Lee Sin. He is here to one-shot someone.
Is this LEC or is this solo queue, Dracos? Because it looks like solo queue to me.
All I'm going to say is last time we saw this up against Attila, he was one-shot in 80 carries. And if you look at Upset on the opposite side, if you look at any of the squishier members that are high damage threats, he has the power to one-shot someone later in the game.
And you could say the same thing with Memento, though. It's the exact same principle for both these junglers putting on their best carry impression and going for the warrior enchantment. The difference is that Schalke's composition have so many more carries. It doesn't matter if Selfmade assassinates one, you're still dealing with a very fed Kennen, a very strong Akali, and upsets Kai'Sa.
And the question is, can Schalke actually find a fight? Because after some of those plays around the bottom lane, it's been relatively quiet. They haven't been able to layer up the ultimates that they necessarily would have liked to. They used the Herald. They weren't able to get any more than just some damage on the towers. The plating did go down, so Schalke will be now looking to cash in on these ultimates, and Odo has to be so careful.
Has to be smart about this one. Selfmade looks at that itemization. He pressed tabs. He sees no stopwatch. He sees nothing else there. He's going to kick him back. Now Warlock stepping forward. Odo want to try to use the ult. He's just instantly deleted. Punished for buying the blasting wand.
That's the play right there. Odwamne without the flash, and Selfmade is able to sneak right in through the lane. And you look at the other side of the map, Memento can't actually trade, so it's SK Gaming. They're going to be able to get this first tower of the game after Selfmade just bullies Odo.
And it was Memento who set the early pace, who found those early plays. The challenge laid down to Selfmade. Can you keep up? And the answer is yes. Finding those two quick back-to-back plays, the one-for-one. Abadage, though, going to look to turn this one back. Dreams interrupting here. Aftershock keeping him tanky for now. And Memento needs to be careful. Pyrion does a lot of damage. Sleepy Trouble Bubble going to zone him down to the bottom side. But Schalke do retain control of the bottom lane for now.
They've also got the Mountain Drake that's spawning in 30 seconds, so not only control over getting some chip damage onto this tower, but if they want to rotate towards that early mountain. But here comes Warlib.
He's going to help push.
Nice.
That's the power of the karma, baby.
Okay, I'll continue the point. Warlib is unlocked, and so while Schalke could have early rotation onto the Mountain Dragon, because the top laner from SK is unlocked from his lane, it automatically gives them priority from a numbers advantage over this area.
And keep in mind, while Odwamne does have his teleport, yes, he does not have his flash, nor does he have his ultimate. So he really doesn't want to commit into this fight. So SK are going to be able to take this dragon without contention.
Super good for them in the coming fights. Of course, a lot of raw damage. Once they get a few more items under their belt, will make it much easier for them to take down a Baron. They move forward, and Warlib now forced back into this lane to try to stop Odwamne from taking the tower. Leaving for a little bit does cost a lot of the health bar, but no plating means it's not going to amount to much. Memento, though, now on the way.
Yeah, he's looking for the flank here. He's going to maybe put down some vision, but no, not going to pull the trigger all that quickly. Instead of going for a potentially risky dive, it's just going to be a Gromp camp. But Selfmade, have to keep your eye on him because he cleared the wolves, and he is on the hunt.
Jungle on jungle combat. Level 9 to level 10.
Zoe's also moving.
Of course, the stopwatch is up and available. Selfmade just threatening there, not going to be able to get anything else. It does mean that Warlib will get a little bit of control over the lane, though, and we'll get first push on that wave. Crown Shot, though, definitely needs to be careful. Would have to just ult Upset back if he left in at this point. Small item advantage for Upset. Crown Shot doing what he can to clear the waves, but it feels like we've stalled out a little bit here. We've paused the game, waiting for the next big rotation or objective to contest.
Yeah, the game is definitely sort of slowed down here, and I think you look at it, you say SK, they've stabilized very well. They haven't been punished after that play in the bottom side of the map, but I think it's important to note that while it is SK holding on and keeping the gold lead even, Schalke are the ones that are now trying to chip down on these turrets, and both top lane and bottom lane are relatively low, so the second they commit a few members towards either side lane, they can try to cash in on some more cash.
And it means that Memento needs to pick his spots well now. He needs to get behind his bot lane, whether that's a Lantern in for a gank or just walk up behind them, but all they need is this Jarvan to show up and to push the tower down for free.
And that's where I'm wondering, where is Memento? Because it seems like Selfmade has pulled the trigger numerous times now around Odwamne. Oh my god.
Oh no!
What?
Hello?
Yeah, uses the shroud to get the energy back. That's a tilter.
Well done.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we just intimately learned the range of Akali's Q, also known as 5-point strike. So, that's a lesson that we all got to learn together. Now, however, we have to keep our eyes on plays from the bottom lane. Selfmade coming in, could look to get this one kicked off, but Memento is here. It looks like they are just going to disengage. Dreams now using the ultimate, but they have to be careful. Cataclysm is there as well. Selfmade now showing. Could potentially turn this play. Abadage here as well. Pyrion now on the way down. Sleepy Trouble will connect. Someone will die. Maybe going to fish for this one, but both teams kind of holding their breath, waiting to go in on that play. CB Trouble Bubble.
Take a look at this, though. Rurliv rotated down from the top lane into mid because he constantly has priority in that lane, so it's going to stop Schalke from committing any further because SK would, in theory, have the numbers advantage if the fight drew out any longer.
And this is one of the fun things about Karma. Because of her inbuilt mobility onto the kit, she's actually just been bouncing between mid and top wave, catching free waves, getting chip damage, possibly even forcing the tower down, and not really losing anything.
And it's brutal now for the Akali too. Because if the focus resolve lands that snare, you're just going to point to exactly where she's going to be in the Shroud. It'd be impossible to land that kill, so it is just Abadagi backing off. Tower for tower traded. The gold slightly in favor of Schalke.
But it's still a trade up for SK because they still have the initial rotation. Now, Odo does have TP, and that's what they need to respect here. But they're trying to force down this tower, and if they get it, it's still 2 towers for 1, especially that mid lane tower. Still a swing for SK.
Now, SK will end up backing away right there, not fully ready to commit for that play on the bottom side of the map, but as we sort of reach the 20-minute mark with Baron spawning and a relatively slow game, all things considered, I think we have to look at these comps as a whole and think, what do they want to actually accomplish? And for SK, it's about kiting around in these team fights and buying space for a crown shot, whereas Schalke need to be diving in, need to be forcing these engagements. So then you ask the question, what have we seen for the last 10 minutes? And it's been SK the ones making the proactive plays, while Schalke have been a little bit slower to, put their foot on the gas.
And it only gets harder as we get further into the game. Of course, Kai'Sa on 2 items can be much stronger than Tristana, no doubt there. But on 3, Tristana starts to take over. Of course, it evens out from that point forward. But if SK can play around that 3-item power spike from Tristana, we've seen how powerful it can be. We saw it in the Rogue game on Friday, where when Crown Shot does get a lead and plays these team fights out, he is so incredibly destructive on this champion.
And normally, if you kind of took SK's composition at face value, you see a Karma, you see a Lee Sin, you're assuming either like supportive utility, maybe some tankiness there. But the fact that Self-Made and Whirlib are both speccing into carry-oriented builds, it's no longer if you just delete the Tristana that you're just dealing with the Zoe and dodging skill shots. There are multiple damage threats on both these compositions, and these fights can get very messy very quickly because everyone has skirmish power.
And this Karma will go through a very large shift over the course of the game, because right now she actually does a ton of base damage. The poke with the mantra up Q is quite a lot, but then once we see 2nd, 3rd, 4th items coming in, that's where it's not going to be as high, and a more important...
Oh no! The input buffered hook, he's now going to pull it back. Piran is staying. Holding off, starting the fight. Drink's going to try to land the head up, pulverize the input buffer once again, but that's going to be massive. Now taking him down. Self-Made kicking him out. Crown Shot manages to find the kill. Abadagi desperate to get something back. Here comes the TP, but W9D2 needs to disengage. A massive cannon ult could turn this one, but is he going to go for it? He flashes in. He's trying to find it. He's trying to turn this game around for his team. He's going to get 1. He's going to get 2. As the Zhonya's here, Self-Made available. Piran coming in, perfectly timed, and he gets shut down. Abadagi running in, desperate to get something back, but Crown Shot kills him. That's the Quadra for Tristana.
A Quadra kill for Crown Shot, and at 21.5 minutes, SK get the ace, and they will be starting up the Baron. Schalke looked like they were in a good position, but SK turned it completely around.
Just a single team fight and a single pick from Piran. We thought that the input buffer on the Thresh, it looked awful for SK Gaming, but the Sleepy Trouble Bubble hit exactly who it needed to. This is a crazy swing for SK Gaming.
And from falling behind to Memento's dominance, now with SK firmly in control on the back of this fight.
Oh, and right here, if you're an SK Gaming fan, you're just in your throat right now. You're like, oh no, disaster. But immediately tags Upset, forces the flash, and then deletes him from the fight.
Yeah, it's Crown Shot that jumps in and gets all the resets on the W, and then W9D2 sees an opportunity, thinks he can turn it around for some big damage, and he gets 2 kills, but not the damage onto Crown Shot that he needed.
And the question was, who was going to be the hero of this game? Who, under the intense pressure, was actually going to find it and step up? Was it going to be the veteran of Odo on a signature pick like Kennen, or was it going to be Crown Shot? We talk all the time, this guy has confidence issues, that he's been unable to transfer his scrim results to stage results. But when it counts, under the pressure of the spotlight, this rookie just showed up huge.
Massive. And for their potential future opponent, Splice, they have to be nervous about facing up against this team, but the day is not done yet. Schalke need to find a way to come back in this game, but you can check the individual goal differences and you can see the massive lead for Crown Shot. It's going to be big in the fights to come. It only gets harder from here because the Lee Sin is getting stronger, the Tristana is getting stronger, Zoe is Zoe, and it's not Not an easy game to survive
Oh,
in.
no, it's not. And the gold lead for Crown Shot means an extra rapid fire cannon to come in at 75% crit chance now on the Tristana, and all the tools in the world to carry in these fights.
To quote you, Inder, we know that Kai'Sa was going to be strong on 2 items, but what about 3 items? And with that quadra kill, it means that Tristana is sitting right there. She is ready to go.
And now, Schalke in a desperate hold. Potentially a last stand here for now. SK going to move to the top side of the map. Going to use this Baron buff to exert a little bit more pressure, threaten Abadage, and just try to take down these tier 2s. Those ones are free. It's about pushing in and trying to break the inhibitor line with this Baron.
Now Schalke, they just have to play the stall game now, because for a minute and a half, SK are going to be looking to siege into their base. And at this point in the game, I think the only way Schalke are going to win the 5v5 is by piling onto Crown Shot and assassinating him in the team fight. But there's so many peel tools for SK that doesn't seem realistic.
And it's also the Hex Drinker now completed, so has the triple damage items with the rapid fire cannon, now has the Hex Drinker. It gets that much harder to pile on as a Kennen and a Kali and actually find kill pressure on Crown Shot.
2 things. We also see, the Athene's Unholy Grail, and that's great. Unfortunately for Crown Shot, the passive on both Hex Drinker and Phantom Dancer is the same unique passive, and that is Lifeline. So
It's in the patch notes.
should have been a QSS there, but still gets the AD, still gets the MR, but we'll only get one of those 2 shields.
It's basically just the first one that procs. Now, Crown Shot is so strong at this moment that I don't think it's going to matter too much. The MR certainly going to help, but oh man, Schalke, they were in such a good position after the early game, and then it all stalled out. They lose one team fight, they lose the Baron, they lose an inhibitor, and now their backs are against the wall for potentially the last time.
It just feels like all the momentum has just left their sails, that they just kind of look lost, they look scared around the map, and to be honest, it's very hard for them to play from this position. They're basically looking for picks, maybe find one on Selfmade here.
Selfmade,
Got
Chain
it.
comes in. Oh, quick shutdown, that's going to be massive, but how much are they going to give up for it in exchange? Crown Shot now going to walk forward, use the Karma Shield to tank up the tower for now. Going to start to burn through that one with the explosive charge. Ignore off to the side, Abadage desperate to clear something back, but Otawamne is on the way in. He still has the ultimate available. This could be the fight to turn the game. Drowsy, but they're still trying to find it. Where is Otawamne going to go? They need that Kennen ultimate. Upset, untouched on the backside. Still doing a lot of damage, but he's only hitting the front line. Crown Shot remains untouched. Pyrian still alive. Warlord still alive. This is going to be the Crown Shot show. The team now tearing through the base all too easily.
SK willing to take the 4v5 after losing their star jungler, and they're not done just yet. With 2 inhibitors down, they're gonna look for the Nexus.
Ladies and gentlemen, this could be the moment. No ulti left for Otawamne. It's coming out. Upset needs to find a miracle play here. I don't know if he can do it. The creep wave is still there, but they need to focus the towers. Abadage desperate to get something back, but that's a kill for Crown Shot. Now firing through 1 tower, and a Nexus stands in front of them. SK Gaming, in their return to the highest level of European competition, will make playoffs in their first split.
Let's go!
SK Gaming coming into this split. No one would have expected it from this team, but in the last few weeks, they have completely turned things around. Crown Shot in the bottom lane on these late game hyper scaling carries. Oh man, everything has come together, and they came into this match, what a change, as the favorites, and they absolutely lived up to the hype.
It was always a question of when SK Gaming were going to turn the page on the Mad Lions. They brought 3/5 of the roster that dominated the Spanish League into the LEC. Crown Shot, Selfmade, and Werlib. And now they've leveled up to SK Gaming. Pyrian having 2 incredible back-to-back performances today on both the Lissandra as well as the Zoe. Dreams making sure that he was zoning appropriately for his ADC. And Crown Shot looks like a completely different animal on crit-based ADCs.
And while there is no doubt in my mind that everyone on SK played their role to perfection in this game, once again, it is Selfmade who stands above the rest, because in this game, Memento dominated early. He got the lead for himself. He set his laners up for success. But with clever plays and a lot of patience from Selfmade, he found avenues back into the game. And from him, the rest of the team just exploded into this game.
Oh yeah, it was beautiful to watch here from Selfmade, because it's hard to jungle against a Jarvan that is 3-0 in the early game, but he found these opportunities, found these openings around Otawamne in the top lane, and and those kills, that momentum that he was able to give to his team was enough to carry them into a solid mid-game and into a 26-minute victory.
Shout out to the coaching staff behind SK, Broken Shard, and their newest coach on stage in Realistic. It has been a rocky road for SK Gaming. Not necessarily the picture-perfect consistency that you would like to see of a team going into playoffs, but there is so much momentum and there is so much hype around this team. The only team to take a game off of Fnatic coming into playoffs.
And now going toe-to-toe with Splice in the first round, and that is a huge matchup. Because you have to remember, no matter what happened in the regular season, people are going to forget in an instant if you come in and you have a clean best-of-5, because that is rewriting the story right there. Those games are just defining, are split defining. Because I don't care if you're Fnatic and you ran it down for the first half of the split. It doesn't matter when you come back in playoffs, when you show up as strong as this. But for more on SK's win, here's Laura with their head coach.
Thank you very much, guys, and thank you, Broken Shot, for joining me. Wow, what a comeback from you guys. What were you thinking backstage when you saw Crown Shots putting this amazing show? Okay.
I'm losing my freaking mind right now. I can't talk. That was, I'm so happy. I'm like so proud of them. It's unbelievable. I can't even explain like how much this means for us, honestly.
Let's take a step back, like 9 weeks ago. What were your expectations coming into the LEC with this lineup?
I wasn't even in the LEC 9 weeks ago. I was coaching an academy team. I had no idea that this would be me 9 weeks later. Unreal, like honestly.
And I'm sorry, even I am losing myself right now. How proud are you of your guys right now?
We went through a lot, like this split, like the coaching change, and then obviously like me coming into head coach, there was so much pressure and so much stress, and like looking back, I definitely wasn't cut out for it. It's so hard, but we were able to make changes. Like, of course, we keep self-evaluating, and I brought up that Realistic are basically head analyst, but honestly, strategic coach should be going on stage because his draft knowledge is so much better. So we just kept adapting and trying to find the best, and we failed a lot. Like in scrims and practice, last few weeks was really bad, and we were struggling, but we pulled through, and I'm so proud. Like, it's unbelievable. If you only knew like how much effort that these guys had to put in and how much they had to deal with, you guys would be completely shocked at how we were able to do this, honestly.
You can be really proud. I mean, after all, it's a team of rookies when you think about it. And coming into playoffs, we have pretty strong teams here, actually. So what are your strengths coming into playoffs right now against all of these teams?
You got to ban Crown Shot, Jinx, Tristana. No, I mean, we just... Honestly, I don't really know like how to explain it. Like, there's a lot of good teams like Splice. We feel like we should be able to beat this team, but every time we went up against them, they just had our number. And it seems that we will actually be playing Splice, so that's going to be a really interesting match, but it's a best of 3. So we just flip 2 games and we win. So that's basically what it's going to be.
That's a good strategy so far. And what do you guys need to work on to finally beat Splice?
We just need to be more cohesive and consistent in how we want to play the game and more controlled, because our scrims are pretty much just games over in 20 minutes and usually us winning. So we need to find ways to get better practice and to be more controlled. So obviously the game that we played against Vitality was basically a scrim game for us, and the game against Schalke is what it should be. So I'm looking more to repeat what we just did against Schalke.
Awesome. And is there something you would like to say to Alvar? Because he was coaching your guys last year in Mad Lions. You're the coach right now. Would you like to say something to him? Because you're in charge.
I mean, to Alvar?
Yeah.
I mean, he did a really great job with those guys. Like Nemesis, obviously, like 4 out of 5 of his players are now in the LEC. So, like, you obviously did something good. Oh, to this guy. All right. You obviously did something good job. Thank you for training them, and we're really happy to have them.
And thank you for your words. We're going to throw it back to PGL, last PGL of the regular season. Back to you, Shox.